a quick internet search for Thai peanut sauce will yield dozens, if not hundreds, of results. Most of them call for peanut butter, but did you know they don't even have peanut butter in Thailand? More traditionally, they'd be making satay sauce with crushed peanuts in it. It might have been Pie Day on Tuesday, but we're celebrating all week because Chef Pailin of Hot Thai Kitchen released her new cookbook, Sabai, on Tuesday, and she's here to talk about it. This is Chris Spear, and you're listening to Chefs Without Restaurants, the show where I speak with culinary entrepreneurs and people working in the food and beverage industry outside of a traditional restaurant setting. So this is a special Thursday edition of the podcast. I didn't get it out yesterday. Did you miss me? If you can't tell by my lovely hoarse voice, I'm battling a bout of bronchitis. So I've been a bit under the weather, and I'm going to keep this intro short and sweet this week. This week, I have Chef Pailin, host of the YouTube channel Pailin's Kitchen, and author of the companion website Hot Thai Kitchen. She recently released her second cookbook, Sabai, 100 Simple Thai Recipes for Any Day of the Week. This episode's really a primer on Thai food and cooking. She dispels some of the Thai food myths and shares her top 5 items for stocking a Thai pantry at home. We discuss why she was compelled to write another cookbook, and she shares how she grew her YouTube channel to over 1.5 million subscribers and almost 170 million views overall. That is quite impressive, and I know a lot of you out there are creating content and would love to know how to do that. No plugs this week, no ads this week. Well, maybe a plug. If you love the show, tell people about it. Just post the show and say, hey, I'm listening to this podcast, Chefs Without Restaurants. I really love it. Share it on Instagram, Facebook, whatever. But other than that, that's all I got. I'm going to go have a cup of hot tea and rest my throat because I'm losing my voice. As always, I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to the show. I hope you have an amazing rest of the day, week, whenever you're listening to this, and I'll see you around. Hey, Pi, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited to talk to you today. I love Thai food and cooking. I'm not fantastic at Thai cooking, so maybe I will pick up some personal tips. That's a little selfish part of me. It's one of the nice things about having guests on the show is I get to kind of ask them all the questions that I want to know.
Yeah, ask away. I love nerding out over Thai food.
So you have a website with lots of recipes on it, a YouTube channel that has like 160 something million views, and a new cookbook, which is your second one, Sabai, which will be out on March 14th. So it sounds like we're going to be talking about some Thai food and cooking today. I can assume that, right?
Yes.
Well, I would love to start with your backstory, especially as it relates to food and cooking, like how you grew up. Was food something that you were really interested in when you were younger? And then how you kind of brought it into more of a content creation setting, if you will, videos and books and such.
Right. So I grew up in Thailand, and I had always been really interested in food and cooking. I was naturally drawn towards whatever was happening in the kitchen. So I learned how to cook at a very young age. But then as a teenager, I was living in Thailand still, and Thailand started importing cooking shows from overseas. So I was watching Jamie Oliver and Nigella Lawson and mostly British and Australian shows. And I fell in love with that. Like, it just looked to me like the perfect job as a kid. I love to cook, and I always loved to present. I always enjoyed public speaking, and it was the perfect combination of the two. And I thought, that's it. That is what I want to be when I grow up. I am going to be on TV and show people how to cook, not realizing, of course, that you don't just go apply for a job like that. And so I ended up just pursuing a career as a chef and hope that one day there will be some sort of a show opportunity down the line. And then when YouTube came along, it was like, well, you no longer have to wait for anyone to discover you. You can have a show if you want a show. And I did it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's so cool. I mean, I search YouTube for everything. I'm always appreciative of the people who put on the most mundane things like the car door jams. And I just like Google like my make and model and like how to fix it. And someone has this whole video of like how to take your car door apart. YouTube is amazing. So how did you learn to cook?
I was taught by my nanny. My mother didn't cook, actually. She still doesn't. And then I was inspired by my grandmothers, both of whom didn't live with us, but whenever they came to visit, they would just cook. All they did was cook. And so I was inspired by them. I learned from them a little bit, but I really learned by going to culinary school. I did go to culinary school and I learned on the job in restaurants. I worked in catering and all of that stuff.
So what's the time frame of that? Like, when did you start your YouTube channel, I guess?
I started YouTube channel while I was in culinary school.
That's a good plan. Like, get it going while you're learning still.
Exactly. And I had so much more time because, as you know, once you're in the restaurant industry, you no longer have time to be starting a YouTube channel on the side.
100%.
And so I had time and I was excited. I was learning so much. Culinary school was the best time of my life. And I had all this energy that like really needed to come out in some way, shape, or form. So it was perfect. And then I kept it up even as I was working already in restaurants. I kept it up, but not that much, but I did it as a hobby whenever I had time. And I never really stopped, even though I wasn't posting all that often.
Was that the first thing you did and the website came after? Because your website is also very comprehensive. Yeah. So the YouTube was the first step there.
Yeah. The YouTube was the first step there. And I really should have started the website sooner, but I didn't realize the potential and the utility of a website back then. And then at some point, I needed a place to have written recipes somewhere. And my first videos, I had no recipe. So I put all the ingredients and their amounts in the video. But if you were to make it, you'd have to like take notes, which, I didn't think about it at the time, but I thought it was fine. But then people were like, you should have these written down somewhere. So I was like, okay, I need a place to put these down somewhere. And so I started writing them down on the website. And then over time, as I realized how much, more comprehensive a recipe post can be, rather than just a recipe, you can give background stories and tips and like substitutions and all that. So I started writing more comprehensive posts. So the website is what it is today.
Are all your original videos still there? Because I know when you first start creating content, sometimes it's a little cringeworthy and you go back and you want to delete. Have you deleted, or is all your stuff still there?
It's all still there except for maybe the first few that are just too embarrassing. I can't handle. They're still up there, but it's privated because I want to have it there just for myself. But the vast majority, I think, except for the first 2 or 3 only, everything else is still there.
Having a podcast was the same. Like, I don't have a background in this. I'm a chef as well. And, people say like, oh, I started listening to your podcast and I started from the beginning. I'm like, don't start from the beginning. Like, start from now and work back, because you're going to hit a period where you're like, the audio quality isn't great. The interviewing isn't great, but I still have my podcast episodes up there. And I just hope that people realize that the quality has improved drastically in the years that I've been doing this.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting for the viewers too, when they watch your first one or listen to your first one and they watch it now and they see, wow, they have really improved. And I think that's great for the viewers.
So your videos and content in general seem like you're demystifying Thai cooking and kind of making it seem more approachable, right? Is that why you just kind of wanted to help people get a handle on how to do this?
Mm-hmm. So when I came to North America, I came to Canada first, and then I moved to the US for a few years. But during that time, I realized what a mystery Thai food is to most people. Like, most people have a Thai restaurant that they go to, but they wouldn't know where to begin to make any of those things, what the ingredients, where to go get the ingredients, what to do with them, how to choose them. And the more I talk to people, the more I realize like people really have no idea. And I felt like, as somebody who loves to teach and who loves to cook, it just felt to me like it was something I needed to do to clarify, just to put it out into the world. And not to mention, when I came here, I started going to Thai restaurants, and I realized that the food that they were serving in restaurants weren't like food that they were serving at home in Thailand. They had been modified and changed and like to make it more, I don't know what the term is, to make it more, I guess, familiar to the American customer, so nothing is too weird or too bizarre. And then I thought, people also don't really know what real Thai food is. If this is their reference point, this isn't really what we eat at home. So I felt like it was a personal mission to show people what Thai food is really like. And I'm happy to say that I think there are more restaurants that have changed that over the years. Like back then, I couldn't find really any food that I would say, oh yeah, this is exactly like home. But now there are more and more restaurants that are becoming a little bit more bold and like, okay, well, let's give them the real stuff and see what people think. And people love it. They always love it. I think sometimes we underestimate the American palate, right? Like they can really, a lot of adventurous eaters nowadays, they want the real stuff. They want the authentic stuff and people can handle it. I'm always surprised at kinds of things people are making and loving.
Absolutely. And I think authentic is kind of a tricky term, but I do think that we have Americanized, a great example is Chinese food. I don't think people ever really had like real Chinese food. They had like Chinese American food, but like growing up, the stuff that I ate going to Chinese restaurants, I don't think is what you would eat in a traditional Chinese home. And you just see that across the board with all these different cuisines. But, people, they impose that on themselves. They impose that on their children. My wife and I, we have kids and we were traveling to the UK last fall. And I remember asking people like, oh, where's a good, restaurant for this or that? And they'd say, well, you've got kids. Like there's a Shake Shack over there. It's like, I came here from like the US. Like I'm not going to Shake Shack. Like my kids are 10. Like they can handle real food and authentic food. Like I want to go get that and not, but I think sometimes we kind of put that on people like, oh, they're not going to like the real Thai food or cooking.
Yes. And I sympathize with the Thai restaurant owners and I don't criticize them at all because when Thai people first came, there were very, very few things that they were able to do for a living because they didn't speak English. And opening a Thai restaurant was one of the obvious things. Okay, we know this stuff, but these weren't chefs who were necessarily like passionate about food. Their mission wasn't to spread the word about Thai cuisine. They were just trying to make a living. And they didn't have all the ingredients that they needed, so they had to make substitutions and all of that. And they were just trying to make it work. And then it just kind of stuck, right? Like even though now we have more adventurous clientele, we have all these ingredients that are available, but the tradition is stuck. Well, this is the way we've been making pad thai all these years. And people like it. Let's just stick with it. So there's a little bit of like a stickiness to that, which is why I think it takes a new generation of chefs to really like make that leap. But I don't want to sound like I'm criticizing Thai restaurants that aren't serving traditional food. I totally understand where they're coming from and it's totally sensible. But I think there's room now to go the other direction as well.
Yeah, and some of those dishes are great and they become their own thing in the same way that we have Italian American. We have these very like pasta red sauce joints, and that's not maybe how it was done in Italy, but it's become such a part of our culture that it becomes its own cuisine,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How do you decide what videos you're going to do and when? Because I know you have a lot of some are very basic, like how to best cook rice, how to buy a rice cooker, versus getting into like a really in-depth recipe. Did you kind of have like a bullet list of like, these are the ones I really think are important to approach? Or is it based on feedback, like people saying, hey, I really don't know how to cook rice?
So a little bit of both. In the very beginning, I did all the famous dishes. Like I did all the dishes that people would be looking for. So the green curry and the papaya salad and tom yum soup and all of that stuff. But once that list had been depleted, then I went into I'm going to make whatever I like. So there was a period of that, just whatever I like, whatever food that I like, because I felt that, I'm a Thai person. If I like this, then this is good enough for the public. This is exactly the kind of thing I want to show people. Interesting dishes you've never seen before, but hey, this is Thai food. And then as the audience grew, I started getting a lot of questions. Then I started making videos that answered those questions, like ingredient deep dives about coconut milk, how to cook rice, which is something that as a Thai person you thought was very basic and that you did not need to explain to people. I was wrong about that. You do need to explain to people, and it's actually a lot more complicated than you think it is.
I will just say, I didn't grow up eating rice at all, like ever. I grew up in Massachusetts. I don't remember. We were a potatoes family. I have never in my life rinsed rice, washed it, soaked it, any of that stuff. And, now it's whether you're looking at a Mexican recipe or a Filipino or a Thai, there's all these things about rinsing your rice, soaking your rice. And it's just funny because, again, I'm sure you probably expected everyone new to do that. Mm-hmm. I don't think I rinsed my rice until I was probably almost 40 years old.
Wow. See, all these things I'm learning. And it's the same way. If you asked me how to cook spaghetti, 20 years ago, I'd be like, I don't know. It's just.
Well, there's no instructions on the bag for most of that. It just says take 1 cup of rice and add 2 cups of water and bring to a simmer. It doesn't talk about the process involved.
And packaging instructions are the worst, especially for Asian ingredients. Do not believe them. Look up a reliable source on the internet. I have seen so many I don't know if they just think they just need to write something to have something there. Nobody ever tested these instructions. It's no.
I find the water to rice ratio is so drastically different on all of them. And not just with whether it's a long grain, short grain, jasmine, but just in general, it could be the same type with different brands. It's am I using 1.5 cups water to 1 cup rice or 2 cups water? And I think you just have to find a brand that you like and works and then figure that out and then just stick to it. That's kind of what I like to do.
And your preference, too. Some people like wetter rice, some people like drier rice. So that is something that you'll have to adjust as well. And a lot of people don't realize that. They'll make rice and they're like, your rice is so dry. And they don't realize that the rice that they like is really wet by other people's standards,
What are some common misconceptions about Thai food that you hear a lot of?
Oh, we're going to get there, aren't we? So it's interesting you asked this question because when I first came, I had no idea what people thought about Thai food. And over the years, I started to notice that a lot of non-Thai restaurants will have Thai something, a Thai salad, a Thai pizza, or, a Thai wrap or something. And I'm just I don't understand what is Thai about this, but I have come to a bullet point of lists that what it is that people will do and then call it Thai. One is peanuts, which is completely astounding to me because we don't actually use peanuts that much in Thailand. It just happens to be one of the only 2 nuts that we have. So wherever you would put nuts, it would either be peanuts or cashews. So it shows up more unlike here, you got almonds and walnuts and all sorts of nuts. We don't have that variety. So peanuts show up as the only nut. But it's not at all a major part of our cuisine. But here it's if you're going to make a Thai something, you better put some peanuts in there.
Well, and pad Thai is probably the gateway dish that everyone's had and knows of. Or they have a Thai peanut sauce, right? Which is peanut butter and, so I think that's probably where that comes from.
Oh my God. And don't get me started on the peanut sauce. We don't have a peanut sauce, okay? We don't even have peanut butter. Peanut butter is not a thing that exists in Thailand. We never grind peanuts into that consistency.
You just blew my mind right now.
What we have is satay sauce. So we have a sauce that goes with our satay, which is always pork, not chicken. Pork satay, and it comes with a sauce that's made with ground up peanuts. That is the only peanut sauce that we have, but somehow, because satay is a popular dish in Thai restaurants, somehow that gets translated to a Thai peanut sauce that people then bottle and put on shelves and put on everything. But if you go to Thailand, 99% of the things you eat are not going to have any type of peanut sauce on it.
Interesting. Yeah, there's 100 recipes. It's peanut butter, lime juice, whatever, maybe a little rice wine vinegar in there, some dry chili flake, and there you go. You have Thai peanut sauce.
We don't use rice wine vinegar.
We've all seen those recipes, though.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're
And how
talking
about spice? I think, a lot of people think that it's all spicy. And I hear from people like, I don't eat food like that because it's too spicy for me. But it's not all spicy.
No, it's not all spicy. And spice is something that you can modify, right? Like there are many Thai people that don't like eat food that's super spicy. I'm one of them. Like compared to Thai people, my spice tolerance is on the low side. Yes, there are many, many spicy dishes, but also so many that are not. And if you reduce the spiciness of a dish, in no way are you making that dish wrong or inauthentic or anything. Like we have kids in our country, right? Kids can't eat spicy food, right? And so, that is something that develops over time. So we've got to have some food to satisfy them too.
And I think curry is one of those weird words, like people who don't eat it, whether it be Thai or Indian. Like I've had relatives who just say like, I don't like curry. It's like, but curry is such a generic term. Exactly. Like how do you use the term? Like what does curry mean in Thai cuisine?
So curry in Thai cuisine, I think is very different from what most people imagine a curry is. First of all, there are many of our curries that doesn't actually contain the dry spices that people associate with curry. There's no curry powder. There's nothing in it. Most of our curries are made from fresh herbs that are ground up into a paste. Some of them have some dry spices, but the spices are not the main ingredient. And so in Thai cuisine, the word curry refers to dishes that are made using curry paste as the main source of flavor. And curry paste is nothing more than just ground up herbs and spices, as I said. And then usually we will use coconut milk as a liquid, but we also have curries that don't use any coconut milk, that they use water as a liquid, and it'll become a lot lighter, a lot soupier. Thai curries are not like Indian curry where it's not thick. It can be very light and thin, and usually texturally it would look more like a soup than a stew. I think a lot of people, when they think curry, what they're talking about is the flavor of curry powder. Like Indian curry powder. Yeah. Yeah, or the generic curry powder that like if you go into a Safeway or a Walmart and you grab a thing labeled as curry powder.
Heavy on turmeric and, like that yellow powder. Yes.
That yellow powder, right? And I think people associate that with curry. Even if you make Indian curry, like there's a huge range of flavors from Indian curry that you can't really just put one flavor to it either. But I think in the West, that is what they're thinking of when they are thinking of curry flavor.
Well, I think sometimes people need a reference point, and that's where you kind of go down this path because you're trying to describe something. I think that's why we use the term like it's a Thai taco or a Thai whatever, right? Because it's easier than saying, well, it's a taco with peanuts and lime and whatever. So we just like pick a generic, like people say, oh, this is a Vietnamese whatever. And it just means it's got fish sauce and lime and whatever, but it's not really Vietnamese,
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. People are trying to give some sort of an easy description.
Yeah, it's hard when people aren't really familiar with those cuisines. So it's kind of a double-edged sword there because you don't want to misdescribe the dish, but how do you convey that to people who maybe don't know? Well, I'd love to talk about your new cookbook a little bit because I've got the book. It looks great. I think people are going to really love this. How does this book differ from your previous cookbook?
So my first cookbook, Hot Thai Kitchen, I had so much knowledge that I wanted to share that I couldn't share in the video form. Because in the video, each one is a recipe. Each one is small and bite-sized, but I wanted to expand on the foundational knowledge of Thai cuisine. It's like, what is a Thai curry? We talk about that. What is a Thai stir fry? How does that differ from a Chinese stir fry? So there was a lot of like textbooky, nerdy knowledge in my first book. And the recipes provided I chose ones that really represented what a Thai curry is like and sort of broke them down into their components. It was all very good if you want to like really study Thai cuisine. My second book, I feel like what I was missing is a resource to help people cook Thai food easily and regularly. Like, For my first book, it's like, that's a weekend project book. This one is a Tuesday night book. And I realized that I don't have that, even though I have a lot of easy recipes on the website. There's no obvious way. Like, you got to browse them. You got to look for a thing. You got to see how difficult it is. So I wanted like a book where if you grab this off of a shelf, you can turn to any page, anything that catches your eye. I promise you can do it on a weeknight. So that's what I wanted this book to be, is something that you can actually cook from without having to think too much about it.
And I think, fortunately, the availability of ingredients right now is amazing. Had this book come out 10 years or even earlier, it's like, great, but where do I get that?
Exactly.
I don't live in a huge city, but, we have a number of Asian grocery stores here, and we have an H Mart, which is fantastic. And I don't think there's a single ingredient that I wouldn't be able to find in there. If someone wanted to stock their pantry to make a lot of these dishes, if there were like 5 things that they should just go if they're going to an Asian grocery store and get, what would those be?
I will say that in my book, there's a section, and I have 2 lists that are like must-haves if you want to cook Thai regularly, and lists that's like nice to have, but it's not necessary. Okay, so on the must-have, you need fish sauce, which you can get like even at Walmart, I think. Like it's.
Do you have a favorite fish sauce?
Yes, and it's changed. So my favorite everyday fish sauce is now Mega Chef.
Okay.
But 3 crabs, red boat, squid, those are all fine choices. So fish sauce, you need soy sauce. If you can get Thai soy sauce, that's great because it's a little different. But if not, the Kikkoman will work. You need oyster sauce of some sort. And then you need coconut milk. And the 5th one, I would probably say tamarind.
And how does that come? Are you talking like the bricks or like a jarred product?
You can do both. The jarred product is easy to use. And it's, if you're not gonna like get super deep into Thai cooking, it's fine. But if you make your own tamarind paste from the brick of pulp, it will taste better. Yeah, and it's actually not
And that's
hard.
and that's easy to do?
Oh, it's totally easy to do. Like, making tamarind is something Thai people make. Like, we don't even make it in bulk. We make it whenever we're going to cook something with it. It's that easy because all you need to do is soak it in some hot water. Just plain water will work as well. And you just massage the pulp into the liquid. That's it. You just need...
Just pulp and water.
Just pulp and water. It's basically the tamarind, the cooking tamarind that we use is basically diluted tamarind pulp.
So when you're buying the jar, you're paying mostly for water.
Oh, 100%. You're paying for processing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you might not use that jar. I'm sure that goes off quicker than having the pulp. So it just makes sense to buy a little
the
pulp.
pulp never goes bad. It's amazing because it's so acidic. So it lasts forever. And once you make it, you can freeze whatever you don't use into little ice cubes, and you can take it out a little bit at a time.
I find one of the hardest products to find are lime leaves, like that they're kind of hit or miss. And those are completely edible, right? You don't have to remove them, or do you?
So it depends. If you put them whole in a soup, which we often do, it's like a bay leaf. It's too chewy to eat a whole leaf. But if you finely julienne them, you can totally eat it.
Yeah, I haven't worked with them enough, just a handful of times, because it seems like that is the thing that I don't always have the easiest time finding. But I love it when they're in a dish. The flavor is just amazing. Yeah,
and if you've got a good climate, they grow pretty easily. A lot of people that follow me have told me that it's hard for them to find it, but they can source the plant or the seed, and it grows in, like, if you have a warm climate.
Well, why this book? This is something I ask a lot of cookbook authors. I understand kind of your why, but there's an enormous amount of cookbooks out there already, and of course, blogs and YouTube. Did you find this book differs from other books out there, or, is it your point of view? Because I think it's challenging to write a book. So what actually made you say, this is something that's different and I want to put it out in the world? That
I want to do? Well, from a personal standpoint, so I make content, I make videos, I make YouTube. It's a fair question, why make one in a book form? And it was a question that I asked myself the first time, because people, when I did not have a book, people kept asking me, do you have a book? Do you have a book? And I was like, why do you want a book? I'm already giving recipes out on YouTube. Like what do you need? But I realized that it's very different. From the user perspective, it's a very different thing to hold a physical book in your hand and flip through and get inspirations and read than to be on your phone or on your computer browsing through a website. It's an entirely different experience, and people who are fans of the show want a thing that they can hold. So I realized then that, okay, it's different for the users, but it's also different for me, because things that I feel like the book really gave me freedom to write about whatever I want to write about without worrying about how well it's going to perform. You know what I mean? Like I could ramble on about stories without worry, is the video going to get too long or too boring? I can ramble on about all these romantic things that I want to talk about that wouldn't work well on the internet.
And you're not penalized if someone skips a page. On your YouTube, if you put a video out and someone doesn't watch it, you get penalized, and then they don't show your videos. With this, if I'm bored with this page and I flip by, it doesn't hurt anything, right?
Yeah, and I think people who are sitting down with a book are not in a rush, right? When you're watching internet videos, it's like you want to find a video that is not wasting your time, right? So you're clicking through, you're saying, this is too long, you skip to something else. But when people are sitting down with a book that they've purchased, they've already made a decision. This is something they want to relax with.
And even flipping a physical book back and forth, like a couple years ago decided I have so many cookbooks, I'm going to start buying digital and have them on a tablet. But I find that I still don't use those books as much. It's not the same to kind of scan one page by one page on that tablet. I'd like to sit down with this physical book. I also think, I don't know, is that stuff going to go away? You purchase all these digital books, and then what's going to happen in 10, 15 years? They're going to change the readers and the formats, and we're not even going to be able to access them anymore. So I'm kind of a hoarder in that sense, or a survivalist, where it's like, I'm not going to get rid of my books. My wife will say, but I know you have that on digital. I'm like, yeah, but it's the same thing with CDs. I got rid of CDs, and now the streaming platforms aren't carrying some of those albums anymore, and you can't listen to them. It's like, I wish I kept my CDs. So that's why I still have all physical copies of most of my books.
Yeah, and I think when ebooks came out, people were saying that this is it. This is the end of paper books. This is where we're going. And then here we are. People still want physical books because they're totally different experiences.
They are. And talking about different experiences, in your book, you have QR codes in there, which I think is genius. For those, people probably haven't seen the book yet because it's not actually out, but there's a QR code. You have a salad roll, and then there's a code, and you scan it, and then it goes to your YouTube, and it shows someone visually how to do it. I think that's such a genius idea. I've never seen that before.
I actually had that in my first book also. I think I was, which came out in 2016. And I think I was one of the very first books that started doing that. But I had all these video content. And the one thing that video does win over text is showing a technique. You can write about it all you want, but sometimes unless you see it, you don't really understand. And wrapping a salad roll is one of those things. Okay. So I thought, how can I tell people that there's something they can watch? And QR codes are great because I can update the link so they never break, right? If I put a website URL, there's no way to copy and paste that URL from your book to your phone. You got to type it out. And then if that URL ever changes, it's toast. But I can go back and update the URL to make sure nothing ever breaks. So it's just brilliant all around. I think more and more cookbooks are going to start to have that.
I do love that. I was in a book this past year, and it was a book about chefs. And there were 50 chefs in the book, and everyone's bio in the back of the book, there was just a list of the 50 chefs with a QR code. And then it went to their business, their website or their bio or whatever online, which was really nice. So you could read more about that person. It's also great for content building because you quite possibly could have people buy your book who've never seen your videos or your YouTube, and now you're sending them out to your YouTube. So I thought that was really neat. I have never seen it used like this before. But yeah, the visual aspect, I was just talking to someone this week. I learned to butcher a pig's head by watching Chef Chris Cosentino did an 8-part YouTube series more than a decade ago. Like I have butchering books, but like reading how to like debone a whole pig's head, there's no way reading a book you're going to be able to do that. But watching someone do that in actual video makes it so much easier.
100%.
Do you have any favorite entry recipes in this new book? Like if you're new to cooking Thai food, maybe haven't eaten it so much, do you have like 2 or 3 recipes you maybe think people should start with?
Yes. So as a general rule of thumb, starting with a curry or a soup is always a good idea because they go slowly. You can take your time and you can taste and adjust to your heart's desire. If you do something like a stir fry, it's something that goes quickly. And it's something that like it's harder to adjust, right? If it's too salty, not salty enough, it's harder to adjust. Soups and curries are much more forgiving. So I would say a good starting curry is the red curry with pineapple and shrimp. So because red curry is a paste that you can find anywhere. I mean, anywhere. And then shrimp, pineapple, like all of these are really basic things. So that's a dish you can make without going to an Asian grocery store. I still think you should go to an Asian grocery store because the choices of curry paste is going to be better. If you're in a Western store, generally they'll just have the Thai Kitchen brand, which is very diluted in potency compared to a Thai brand. So like if I have to use a Thai Kitchen, I have to use like the whole jar. And then it's still not spicy and they have to like add a bunch of stuff to it. You know, if you're very sensitive to spice, maybe that's a paste that you want to start with. But if you're ready to like, you know, have some heat, go to your Asian grocery store and pick a brand that's not in English.
Oh, that's so overwhelming. Like nothing is in English. Just soy sauce for those people who know that there's or think that there's like 2 or 3 like Kikkoman or whatever. And then you go there, like I'm standing there. I love the Serious Eats website and they quite often have like how to stock an Asian pantry. And it's like, here's their 10 favorite soy sauces. But I'm like looking at the phone and looking on the shelves, like trying to look at the picture and the words because none of it's in English and just trying to figure out like which one I'm going to get. And then I figure like, probably any of them would be better than what I could get at like my local grocery store.
Right, exactly, because that's a store catered towards Asian people. This is why one of my top performing videos is a video where I gave a tour of an Asian grocery store. And if you're new, I highly recommend going to my YouTube channel and watching that because people are overwhelmed. And I understand it. I've been there, you know, when I try to cook Korean food, I go to H Mart. It's like, that's all very unfamiliar to me as well. So I understand the feeling. And I think that video will help you choose, at least narrow down your options of what to get and what not to get.
Yeah. When you see a whole aisle of, you know, vinegars or miso pastes or something like that, you know, but I think if it's something that you like, you just get one and try another one the next time. Get a fish sauce, try it. It might not be to your taste, or it might not be your favorite. Get another one the next time. Although something like a big bottle of fish sauce sometimes takes a while to work through.
I'll give you a little tip. Okay. If you are really at a loss at an Asian grocery store and you don't know which to choose, price is generally a good indicator of quality. And we're not talking about expensive stuff. Asian ingredients are very cheap. But if you've got like a thing that's $6 and a thing that's $4, the $6 one is probably better. So when in doubt, you can go with that. And also a lot of stores will hide smaller size bottles on the top shelf. So if you were talking about fish sauce being like a liter bottle, look up on the top shelf. Sometimes the smaller bottles are there.
Those are great tips. Yeah, like I went to buy some shoyu not too long ago, and you know, there's a whole bunch of them, but then there's these bottles that are like wrapped in paper, and they're like $9 a bottle instead of $3 a bottle. So it's like, I can't read any of this, but I'm assuming that if I buy this like nice paper wrap bottle for $9, it's going to be so much better. Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
And is there anything better than Tom Yum on like a cold day when you're sick? You know, like that's my favorite. It just like opens everything up. You got some spice in there. And that's one of my favorite dishes to get, you know, even if I'm going to get like a big curry after, just to have some and share it with the family to start.
And actually, we never talked about what recipes to actually do. So, the We did talk about the red curry with shrimp, but on the soup side, a tom yum is great if you can get the herbs, and you can get the herbs dried at many places as well. Dried herbs work well in soups. Tom yum is great, but tom kha is another one that's really great for people who don't eat a lot of spicy because it's milder. It's got coconut milk, so it's going to be richer. So that is actually like when I used to do cooking classes, I always had a tom kha gai, which is a coconut chicken soup on the mix because I know 100% of the time people are going to love it. And it's such an easy to love dish. And a lot of times people are kind of blown away because it's a flavor combination that they have never had before. The same herbs as tom yum, but just a little more creamy.
Yeah, there is something nice about a coconut milk based something. You have that body. Because I'm not a huge soup eater for a meal. Like I'll eat soup, like a tom yum as a starter, but I don't feel like filled up. So that's why I like sometimes something that has like that heavy, fatty, coconut milk in there because it feels more substantial to me. So I want to talk about how to eat Thai food correctly, because I feel like that's something that you maybe have some feelings about. I know you've got a video on there, and I'm sure some of it is visual. I don't know that there's a lot of cuisines or cultures where I've had to, kind of learn how to eat properly. Do you have some tips about what that means and how to eat Thai food properly?
It's nice. So this is my latest video, and I have never seen a video with more engagement in the comment section. So how to eat Thai food properly? First of all, the utensils to use is a fork and a spoon. And the spoon is what you use to carry food into your mouth because we have a lot of sauces in Thai cuisine. Our rice is jasmine rice. They don't really stick together very well. So if you try to eat Thai food with a fork, you will have a hard time because things just don't stay on the fork very well. So the fork is there to really help push food onto the spoon. So that's the main thing. And then if you want to spear food with the fork, you can do that. But the main thing with the fork is it helps push things onto the spoon. Now, it is usually done family style, which means that most of the dishes are in the middle and you're sharing. And everybody starts with a plate of rice. All of Thai food is eaten with rice. Even soups, even salad, all your curries, all your stir fries. The flavors are super strong. If you don't have a plate of rice to go with it, it's too much. It doesn't work. It's like having, just the pasta sauce without the pasta, basically. That's what it is.
And what kind of rice is this?
Jasmine rice.
Always jasmine.
Rice. Yes. And I always tell people, this is not a buffet. You do not load your plate with everything that you want from the middle and then start eating, which, it's funny because coming to North America, I see all these things that I would never think about. So I start having Thai meals with friends and they would load their plate because at a Thanksgiving dinner, Christmas dinner, that's what you do, right? If you're sharing something, you compose your plate with everything that you want and then you start eating. But not in Thailand, and I think in Southeast Asia as well. You take a little bit of a couple of things. You finish it, you go back for more. And we do this so to make sure that everyone has gotten a little bit of everything. So you don't take too much, and then you also never end up with more food than you can eat. You're not going to end up with that Thanksgiving coma at the end because you're literally taking 3 bites of something at a time. In Thailand, the only time we sit down with our own plate of food is if you're having noodle dishes or rice dishes. So for example, pad thai is not something you share with people. They're like the sandwiches of our cuisine. It's something you have for lunch when you're by yourself or when you're with your colleagues and you just want to get in and out quickly. Like we go for pad thai, pad see ew, fried rice, something like that. Like those are complete meals in a dish. But if you're having dinner with your family, lunch with your family, any sort of like a quote unquote regular meal with your family, it's always family style.
Do you eat with chopsticks at all?
No.
No chopsticks? I've seen chopsticks at Thai restaurants before.
I know. And you know why they give it? Because people ask for it. Because people ask for it because they think that chopsticks are like an Asian thing. Chopsticks just doesn't work with Thai food. It's the way we serve it. We serve rice on a plate. If you try to eat Thai food, rice on a plate with chopsticks, you're going to have a very hard time. Okay. Chinese people, Japanese people can eat rice with chopsticks because their rice comes in a bowl. And they use the chopsticks to sweep things into their mouth, right? It's a very different thing, very different experience. And we use chopsticks sometimes for noodles. There are a lot of people of Chinese descent in Thailand. So a lot of them will like to eat noodles with chopsticks, which is fine. But for rice, never.
And I imagine there's curries, right? Like brothy, soupy kind of stuff.
Yes,
There's no way that translates at all.
There's no way. And I think also like people don't understand that when I say this is eaten with rice, I'm not saying the rice is a side dish and you'll have a bite of curry followed by a bite of rice. No, the curry and the rice come together in one bite. So that's why we need a spoon.
If people don't get anything else from this episode, hopefully it will be how to eat it properly. And I do tons of links in show notes. So I'll link that video up specifically so that people can check that out, because I think it's also a visual that they would appreciate.
Yes, totally.
So many of my listeners are content creators, and I want to talk a little bit about the YouTube channel kind of specifics, because you have a enormous following, more than most. You're probably in, like the top 5%, if not 1% of subscribers. You have almost 2 million subscribers. What was that trajectory like? Did you start off and it's been kind of a slow build? Was there some viral content? How did you get to be that huge on YouTube?
I have been doing YouTube since 2009.
That's a very long time.
A slow build is exactly what that is. And I want this to be encouraging to people. You see a lot of newcomers who just explode onto the scene. Suddenly you've never heard of them before and suddenly they've got like 2 million subscribers, and that can happen. But there are also a lot of channels who are successful because of slow and steady growth. And in fact, I would argue that if you can manage slow and steady growth, you will be more stable. Because if people find you from one piece of content that went viral, they may not come back. They may not come back again because and we see this a lot with short form content now. A video
100%.
on TikTok or YouTube Shorts will get 5 million views. And those views don't return.
Oh, yeah. I have shorts that are like, I'll have like 500, 800, and then one will be like 12,000. And then the next one's like 1,000 or 700. It's like people came because of this one clip, because something was maybe controversial or something, and then the comments blew off, and then you kind of lose that traction.
Yeah, but if you build a channel that has a solid foundation of resources, so like, for example, if people come to my channel, if you're looking for a Thai dish, you're going to find it, unless it's some obscure thing. Like if you're looking something on your Thai restaurant menu, you're going to find something at least similar to that. So if you build a solid foundation of resources that answers the questions that people are coming to you for, whatever cuisine or kind of food you specialize in, but that foundation of resources have to build over time, right? So it takes time, it takes patience, but I think it's always helpful to keep in mind to think about the viewers. What problems can you help them solve? What questions might they have? And then try to answer that questions. Try to have an answer for as many questions as you can possibly do. And then over time, you will become, again, stable and solid. And people can keep coming back, because that's what you want. People coming back to you because they have come to trust you as an authority and as a reference.
And I think if you're engaging with your community, you have a pretty firm handle on what they're looking for. And if you are the type of person who responds to comments and people know that, then it's easy, because people will say to you, but how do you cook rice, or what's the best wok to buy, or whatever. And hopefully you're getting that info where then you know what content to create, because people are specifically asking for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have any final words for our listeners today before we get out of here? Anything that we haven't addressed? I'm sure we could talk all day about Thai food and cooking and so forth, but is there anything that you really want to share before we leave?
I think if we're speaking to content creators, because I think even if you're not a content creator for a living, if you're a private chef or whatever chef, you probably have some sort of a social media channel. I think my final word would be done is better than perfect. I just came back from a conference, a food bloggers conference, and I met a lot of food bloggers who are thinking about having a YouTube channel, but they're trying to figure out what is the best thing to do, what is the best angle, and how to. And I think the best way to figure out what to do is to do it. And if it goes terribly wrong, you can always delete the video. You don't have to post it. Or you can post it if it doesn't do well and you're embarrassed about it, you can always take it back. But the only way to know is to put it out there. And I think I was blessed when I started my YouTube channel. There weren't a lot out there, so I didn't have anything to compare myself to. And I didn't think twice about it. Like, I literally thought, oh, I can do this now? Great. Do it. Let's do it. And I think it's much harder to do these days because you've got so many points of comparison. But if you can pretend that you're in your own world and just post whatever you want, you will get there much faster.
And you have to get a little thick skin because people love to come in the comments and comment on what you're doing.
Trust me, it is not easy. Any YouTuber who says comments don't get to them is not telling you the truth, but they've just learned to let it go much quicker. So I remember early in my career, I used to get like a negative comment would like hang with me for like a whole day, you know? But now I've learned to see the humor in it. I've learned to realize that I don't necessarily understand what people are going through. And so there might be a lot of hurt, a lot of stress that they're taking out on the world. And now a comment will get to me for, a couple minutes and then I can shake it off. But that took a lot to get to this point. So if it's taking you a little bit more, like know that that's normal, but work towards it and know that it's never about you.
Comments equal engagement, and engagement pumps you up a little bit. So, I try and take a lighthearted approach to it and try and be funny in my responses because, it is what it is. I did a video the other day and I talked about washing mushrooms, which apparently is really controversial because I washed my mushrooms because they were super dirty and then I spun them dry in a salad spinner and all these people came and said, you don't wash your mushrooms, they're going to be really wet. And I said, here's an experiment. And Harold McGee talks about this, weigh your mushrooms, then wash your mushrooms, dry them, weigh them again, and tell me how much heavier they are, because I can almost guarantee you there's no water absorption, if you're just running water over them.
Yes.
But all these chef bros came for me in the comments about how I'm just going to have water mushrooms and they're not going to saute and brown. Literally, there's a video of them being super brown and golden. So it wasn't that they steamed, but everyone wanted to argue about it. But it's keep arguing about it in the comments because it's just making this become one of my most viewed videos this week. So have at it, you know?
Exactly. And just so you know, I am a mushroom washer too.
Yes. They're so dirty. They're so dirty. I mean, I get some of these and they're covered, especially if you buy the ones in the package. If you're buying them bulk and loose, I feel like they're cleaned up a little bit. But when you get the containers of them, I take them off and there's dirt everywhere. It's I am definitely washing these.
Yeah. And what are you going to do? Sit there with a brush and brush them individually? I got no time for that.
No, but people are funny like that. Everyone's got their opinions. And especially when I'm sure with you, authentic cuisine and traditional cooking styles, I'm sure there's tons of people who that's not how their grandmother did it or whatever. And they feel they need to come and tell you that, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah,
right?
For sure. Which is why I always say comments are about the commenter, not about you. Yes.
Good advice for everyone out there who's creating content. And I think that's probably almost everyone who listens to the show, even if it's just an Instagram page.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Well, thanks again for coming on. I love the book. I can't wait to share this episode with everyone. Again, it'll be linked, so people will hopefully go buy your book, and then they can find you on all your channels and learn to be a better Thai cook.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great fun.
And as always, this has been Chris with the Chefs Without Restaurants podcast. Thanks so much and have a great week. Go to chefswithoutrestaurants.org to find our Facebook group, mailing list, and chef database. The community's free to join. You'll get gig opportunities, advice on building and growing your business, and you'll never miss an episode of our podcast. Have a great week.